Go. Intro is going. Gear is being dropped.
It looks like a tropical juice.
Russian tropical juice. All right, I'm really happy to be back with you all to the Leo Perez show. Every time there is a small hiatus of a pausa, you can blame this on all the situation in the world that we're living. Especially musicians are having a hard time, so we have to break our backs a little bit to get our family running. But hey, today I was recording a balalaika player, and he was asking for a lot of money for the recording, and somebody said something like, man, it's not my fault that you only play the balalaika, so whatever. I'm very pleased to have here two of my best friends and two great minds that I think are really relevant for what's going on right now. Eduardo Gavotti and Amilcar Ortega. Welcome back to the Leo Perez show. Yes, we got you there. How are you guys?
Hello, mate. How's it going?
Great.
Hi,
So-
Amilcar.
Eduardo, what's
For the
up?
first time in our
Oh.
show, we have a triple connection here. This is a three-continental session between Latin America, Europe, and Russia, and Eurasia. And I wanted to...
Now the UK is no longer part of the well, it's still Europe.
Oh, that's adding more logs to the fire, they say.
I don't feel good. Nah, I'm
Yeah,
alright.
so I was wondering if we're really like in some sort of real life or in some sort of Mr. Robot episode or something like that. And there were pretty significant events this week and last week and the week before and the week before and the week before. And you can trace all the way back to 2016, something like that, to the beginning of the
Yeah.
Trump presidency. So I thought to bring you guys here and to kind of have a little chat from the internet's perspective and from the financial markets perspective on how do you see what's going on, and just to hit it on, guys. We have a nice road to analyze. So let's start with you, Eduardo. How significant what was happened this week? Was it something really big, or is it being overplayed by the media?
No, this is absolute madness. I mean, there's too many elements. There's a lot of them that we can, of course, if we have time, we'll take a little bit on each one. But in essence, it's like it's the first time that in the fight between what they call the smart money and the dumb money, the smart money has actually lost the first round.
Uh-huh.
Now, we don't know how many rounds this is going to go, but certainly is something unprecedented because, of course, with the level of connectivity that people have nowadays, what a group of retail, average guys, when I say average, of course, there's a distribution. You will have people that in there that have millions, others that only have like 50K or whatever, but they achieve something that is really, really significant because they actually made a number of hedge funds bend the knee in their own game. So this is something that was never seen before.
So it would be something kind of like when the small football team goes and destroy Real Madrid like 7-0 or something like that.
Yeah.
But you don't know
Easy.
if there's going to be a return game.
If I lost you guys or you lost me, I'll get back quickly. But yes, it's exactly like that. And actually, it happened very recently also to like teams like Real Madrid. They lost on the Spanish Cup against a team from like the third division, and it was like a huge thing. The difference between the football analogy and this one is the ramifications or the consequences that this may have.
Mm-hmm.
Because to some people, it's like it unraveled or it took off the veil, and now people can see a lot of the things that were said before as conspiracy theories. As the people are talking about market manipulation, but there's another side, like the actual dangerous side of the possible effects that can bring the whole market down if certain triggers happen. So it's just starting. It's not a matter of one big investment company going down. At the moment, it hasn't happened, or people suing another investment firm for whatever, or people just making money out of a tremendous bet that went right. It's about the how concentrated everything is and how interconnected everything is, that, and how fragile things are, that if you just sneeze, you can actually like blow up the whole thing.
How much of element of premeditation do you think this had? I mean, was it something like really, really orchestrated? Obviously, for those who were living under a rock on the last week of January 2021, we're talking about the Gamestop circumstance and the fact that a group of Redditors, a fairly large group of Redditors, right, kind of synchronized themselves into some sort of, could you call it an attack on Wall Street, or was this more like a prank on Wall Street, or a bit of both?
Neither. So it's I just think it started as a group of again, retail investors on Reddit who had their forum to share investment ideas, and this group of Redditors called the Wall Street Bets, led by this guy who used to be a financial advisor, were basically making a thesis or a hypothesis on, look, there are certain companies that for some reason that the big guys are, bringing down or are betting against, in this case, GameStop. And other big guys saw the exact opposite. There was a change in the management of that company. There were some things that, some plans about changing the business model. The new CEO.
The Redditors thought that GameStop had a better future, and they were really betting on the company in sense like, oh, yeah, this looked promising, so...
Yes. But also one of the factors that they were looking was that a lot of big institutions, again, the hedge funds, were betting very heavily that this would not happen, so that the old, shopping mall game shop was going to just go down, because, those business models, especially not just because of the pandemic, but because of how the world lives today, no one is going to the shopping malls anymore to buy like they used to. So they were saying, look, the numbers are reflecting this, that like the whole fundamental picture of a company like GameStop as it was before is just unsustainable. So they were, in a way, they had a pretty obvious bet to go against that. However, the sort of little guys, again, in this story, were saying, no, I mean, we are seeing how companies are transformed by technology and innovative business models. And when they brought this new CEO, who basically turned a pet food online shop using sort of the Amazon multi-channel distribution model for this, was very successful. So when they brought him, it's like, okay, this may work, and starting combining the two elements, the fact that the company, as you said correctly, may have a better future, number one, and number two, that if the big guys are betting heavily against this, then at some point we can actually take all that money that they are risking. And this is when it got interesting, because then a group of them said, wait a second, do you mean that we can actually win the battle against the suits? And if not only that we can win the battle, but we can actually take all that money that they are actually putting into the market. Like, wait a second, how would it work? And then they started structuring like this thing that's called the short squeeze.
Didn't they became like some sort of hedge fund by doing that?
Decentralized hedge fund. That's the beauty of it. Well, this decentralized is probably like a cheap tag, because it's not decentralized. The fact that they're not organized as a company, but most of these people, they had accounts in the sort of new brokers, namely the most famous of all, Robinhood, which is funny, because Robinhood is supposed to, again, everyone knows the story of Robinhood, like taking from the rich to give to the poor and so on. Well, this is a company that basically was onboarding or accepting clients left, right, and center. They grew massively. It's valued in like $8 billion before this whole shambles. They are just about to go public, like to list their company in the stock market to run in an IPO, which is a big event in a company. And they were offering basically free trading. Like, you can just, you should be able to just buy stocks and not pay any commissions. Like, this is almost like your right. Like, you don't need to be an institutional to play in the stock market. But it backfired massively, because, now you have all these people trying to buy. They don't have the capital resources, nor the necessary liquidity to satisfy this new demand for shares. And on the other side, you have the conflict of interest that, by affecting the little guy and preventing them from buying more, you're actually favoring the bigger guys that need a way out.
So can you say the same thing you just said, but with an analogy or a metaphor, something like that? Like if it can come to your mind. If it's hard, I understand.
Like out of the blue, maybe I'll try my best. So let's say, I don't know, that again, let's pick football. Like football
Yeah.
can be very intuitive to some. So imagine that again, the small team is playing against Real Madrid, and first half they're winning 2-0, and then the second half, like, let's not get carried away. Let's keep playing like we're doing. Let's imagine we're still 0-0, 0-0, and let's do our best. And Real Madrid goes like, yeah, well, don't worry, we're gonna win this. We're Real Madrid, come on.
Yeah.
And then second half starts and 3-0, 4-0, 5-0, 7.
But it's
15,
kind of like the smart team brought like 1,000 players, right? Like, I mean,
yeah. No, I
into
mean,
the
it's
pitch.
like all of a sudden it was like the best day for those guys. All of them were Messi, whatever you want to call it. But then, it's like the imagine, like, I don't know, the referee said, wait a second, this ball is actually like the ball belongs to the small team. So I think you're playing with a ball that you know how to play with. So we should change it. We should bring one that the other team knows best. Let's do something about it so that you can't win.
Wait, like the referee said to the small team, like, let's change the ball because Real Madrid knows how to play better with this ball, or did I got it wrong?
With another one. So because the small team is used to this ball, and this is not like an official ball, let's just bring one that is like better suited for Real Madrid.
But that's like unfair, right?
That's the whole thing. And by the referee, I don't mean in this case. It's a shitty analogy, really, because the referee should be the regulator. In this case, it wasn't the regulator, the one that implemented the change. It was the broker, and the broker is the facilitator between one and the other. So I don't know if it was a good analogy. The point I'm trying to make is that the measures that were taken to prevent the one company from failing and allegedly to protect a group of investors was in detriment of of those investors that you were supposed to protect.
Of the little guys.
Of the little guys, yeah.
What's that company that was protected?
Robinhood, essentially, first of all, but also the hedge funds that were betting against.
Yeah.
And this is, I need to explain a little bit this better, because when you are shorting or when you are betting for something to fall, and it is not working out, again, it's like you're losing the game because the prices, instead of falling, are going up. Then you're left with two options. Either you liquidate your positions entirely and eat the losses, say, okay, fine, it didn't go well, but obviously you don't want to do that when the losses are significant. So you're left with the option of what's called covering your shorts. And the way that you cover your shorts is, again, you have a position that the more is going up, you're losing more money. So what do? You buy shares of the same instrument that you were shorting, so that you benefit from the price going up, and that way you offset the losses. So it's like you go like this.
Yeah. So you do the opposite operation that you were trying to do, so you can recover your losses, basically.
Or at least so that you can set a fixed limit to your losses, because the problem is that this is not like $3-5. We're talking about billions here. So the more you go and cover your shorts, the more the big players need to cover their shorts. It means that there's more demand for the stock.
That's why the stock shoot like to $350 or something.
Precisely. But then, and this is like the simplistic way of putting it.
Yeah.
Because then you have another way, which is you can enter into these bets with an instrument called options. And options is a derivative, is a contract that gives you the right to buy or sell, depending on which one you're taking. Again, if you're betting for the company, you buy a call option. If you're betting against the company, you buy a put option. And these contracts give you the right to buy or sell at a set price at a given time. So, for instance, so this guy that was leading the Reddit army, he bought a call option that expires in April this year, and the price at which it expires is $50. It means that the moment the share price goes over $50, then you're making shitloads of money.
Oh, so
because you're not buying like just one option. You can buy he bought $50,000 in these contracts, which meant that the multiple can be even like 150 times.
Yeah, and so the biggest beneficiary of this is the leader of the Reddit army, would you say?
No. I mean, he played it well. And he was fair enough to in this group to let know the members of the group, like, look, guys, I'm doing this. This is my thesis. This is the position I'm building. He started doing this in 2019, and people started following him. But again, and this is when it shifted, because at the beginning it was like, I'm just seeing this as a trading opportunity, as an investment opportunity. He was spotting something that the others hadn't. So, but then when they figured out that their gains could actually cause or inflict harm in the institutional players, in the big sharks of Wall Street,
it became personal.
People was like, this is interesting. I don't give a fuck where this ends. I just want them to suffer. So I'm joining. And I'm calling my friends, and then the whole thing started in a like rebellious movement. But if you like, there was an interview that this guy, the leader of the leader is like a rebellious group.
Yeah,
let's call him the founder of this Wall Street Bets, the Reddit
moderator,
group.
The mod.
Yeah,
that's
he's one of the moderators, probably the founder, the one who started all, or maybe the brightest. I don't know the guy. But he gave an interview to the Wall Street Journal, and he said, like, I'm just a regular guy. I used to be a financial advisor, and then I started doing this on my own from my basement, and I had some spare money, and I know how to read the markets, and I was doing this. Like, I have nothing against the big guys. I'm just doing the exact same thing that other hedge funds do. Actually, the very guy from the movie The Big Short, Michael Berry, did this. So he was actually he got to acquire almost 2%, actually almost 3% of the company in 2019, or from 2019.
Of the same company, of Gamestop?
Yeah, Gamestop, yes. And that's all public. You can see it, in the holdings. Not him personally, but through his firm, Zion Asset Management.
I have one more question on this nature. Well, I have so many, but
it's a massive topic. I mean, actually, you guys need to stop me. It's like, hold on right there. We'll probably get to it.
No, well, in a point that the way to flip this is like, I mean, all of this has these big implications of the internet becoming some sort of mob rule machine, right? In which, I mean, the vast amount of numbers of people online synchronized doing something can perhaps like become a vector into any direction. And I guess that, go ahead.
That's exactly right, because the internet is pretty much a level playing field until it isn't.
Yeah.
In the sense that take politics or whatever you want to call it. If you are good at organizing people, and if you manage to touch the right points or to pull the right strings, and you convince people, you don't need to move anywhere. You don't need to be present. You just need to tackle or to move a sentiment, to trigger something meaningful for the rest of the people to follow you. It's in some ways it's like cults work. So you have cults, like religious cults that they follow the leader or whatever. But again, in this case, it was, first of all, an opportunity to make money that then transformed into something else, and then it became a massive movement. This is, of course, this would have never happened if the brokers like Robinhood wouldn't have opened or given access for these people to trade in the markets. And this is also something interesting. There's a saying that I don't know.
It's kind of like if Twitter would not have existed, nobody could have influenced the elections with Twitter.
Yeah, something like that. It's like Marx said in the past, like that.
What happened here?
Yeah, no. Just tiny. Allow me just one. That says that like.
Hello.
We got a short on. Amilcar went on short. Yeah, carry on.
Sorry.
Yeah. No
yes, I thought that you didn't like me mentioning.
No. It felt like that.
I promise it's not gonna be that.
Yeah.
So no, it's like Marx said, like a capitalist would be so foolish to sell the rope to his to his to the guy that is going to hang him.
Yeah, yeah,
So I don't know
exactly.
the exact wording in English. I'm sorry, I learned this in Spanish.
So this is a
So
case of kind of the market creating its own rope to hang itself.
yes, exactly that. So that's what happened, because obviously, Robinhood had all the incentive to bring as many customers as possible, and all these fintech companies and tech companies, it's all about user growth.
Yeah,
But these people are not all of them are idiots. Not all of them are like selfie guys just doing Instagram on fake cars or fake girlfriends or whatnot.
yeah.
Some of them are actually pretty clever individuals that if they get together, they can cause serious less harm on the one side, but also serious benefit for the community.
And if
So yeah.
I have one last question before I flip it to Amilcar a bit to hear his side of things. Like, um, were the people in the financial world seeing this coming, or was it like also a shock for everybody, or were people saying like, "Man, check this out, this is gonna blow"?
No, I don't think that they were seeing this. I mean, in hindsight, obviously, many respected advisors, hedge fund managers, and so on are saying like this was crazy. I mean, obviously, those hedge funds that were betting against the company, they bet too heavily, so they probably did not respect the rules on risk management and so on. How could they do this in this way? Because one interesting aspect is that there's a coefficient, a ratio
Yeah.
called that measures the interest, short interest versus the floating. So how many, in essence, is how many short positions or how much interest there is in the market for going against the number of shares that are actually available. And the number of shares that people wanted to short or actually to sell was 140% more than
Okay.
the actual shares outstanding, which is madness. Like there wasn't enough to actually do this operation. This is over leveraging, and whenever you hear leverage, think of a time bomb.
Mm-hmm.
The moment it explodes, it will blow up everyone, not just the one that is holding it.
Well, I want to flip it like, look, this in a way, in my way of seeing things, is kind of connected with what, I mean, you can make a connection between this and what happened in the Capitol Hill in the first week of January. Like, in the sense that these are two events of mobs, being directed towards somewhere. It can be, towards some sort of like castigating Wall Street, or it can be towards castigating democracy. And Amilcar has been a person who was always kind of like looking at the internet on the a little bit from the vantage point of looking back to where we are, being a little bit ahead and thinking about what was going to happen or what was going on. And I guess that my first question to Amilcar would be: are you shocked that this is going on, or do you think this is part of the same apparatus? How do you feel about this mob feeling that we have in 2020, 2021, and the effects that it has?
First of all, I want to say that I'm not claiming causality or a connection here, but I recently decided that I wanted to make money. And of course, what's the first thing that I did? I started watching Billions. And this happened, I'm not saying that I caused it or anything, but it's really suspicious. Uh, and I when you told me that we were going to do this, I
Yeah.
started documenting myself, learning about the the event and everything around it, because I'm not an investor in any shape or form, and I don't know many of the concepts at play here. But actually, Eduardo's live stream was very educational, didactic. It was easy to follow,
Okay,
and
appreciate that.
and yeah, it was very cool. And I think it was much clearer than the other videos I saw. Like, maybe not clear is not the way, but it was like deeper. Like everyone was analyzing this in a very, I don't want to say shallow, but maybe it
High
was like
level,
in a
maybe.
very basic way,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and your analysis was like really more deeper. And it's in Spanish, so everyone watching this that doesn't speak Spanish is fucked.
Yeah.
But no, like maybe you can get into it now later on, because there's a lot at play here. But what I saw happening yesterday was like the thing that it wasn't present in your live stream, because
Correct.
your live stream was days ago.
Yes.
And the thing that happened yesterday that you were alluding to, but I don't think it was clear. I was watching you to talk like the audience, and I don't think it was clear. Was that yesterday the brokers stopped selling the GameStop stock,
Yeah.
and all of them, not only Robinhood, but there are some other companies that I don't know the name right now,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but they that do basically the same thing, like democratizing the the stock market, and all of them stopped selling the GameStop stock. And that is like I saw like that Barstool guy. I don't know his name. I don't
Yeah. Yeah.
remember his name.
Dave Portnoy.
Yeah, Dave Portnoy. He was livid in an interview with Tucker Carlson, I think.
Yeah.
And he was like saying that this is obvious market manipulation. Like, how can they do that? Like, someone has to go to jail for this, because what's happening maybe unprecedented, or maybe it can uh, how do you say it, like desestabilizar,
Oh,
like
destabilize.
Destabilize. Yeah.
destabilize the system. But it's not illegal. Like these people are just playing the market by the rules that are written, and they're trying to change the rules. And that was the analogy, the referee analogy. Um but but the thing here is like, it's like, who orders all of these people? Because Robinhood is probably never going to recover from this. Like a company that is built on serving the little guys, screwing them over like this. Like,
Uh-huh.
this is a
Exactly.
big play for them. And who can you have $1 billion company, and somebody who has the power to tell you that you have to basically sabotage your own company and your own way of doing business, your own business plan. And they did it. Like, this is big people we're talking about here.
Yes and no,
And
Amilcar. So sorry if I may weigh in just there, and then
no,
you continue,
Please.
because
please,
it's a little bit more complex than that.
please.
And that's where Dave Portnoy, who I have to say I like a lot, because at the beginning I was like, oh, this guy is obnoxious, I cannot listen to him anymore. But I then realized that it was actually he was creating a persona, a Twitter persona around him, and like just to capture
Yeah.
an audience. But the guy is actually like a fair guy, especially what he's doing with a fund that he started to help the small businesses around the U.S. That's very, very noble from him. So, but anyway, aside from the guy, the complex thing about Robinhood and most of these brokers, particularly in the U.S., where is that like the epicenter of everything that happens that is significant in the financial markets, is that why? So Robinhood, the way they operate is that they can sell you, they can provide you the service of offering you access to the stock market for free because someone else is paying for that bill. It's like the old thing in internet that says that when something is free, you are the product.
Yeah.
You're being sold to someone. The same Facebook thing, the same, Instagram, whatever. Like, why would I give you all this technology and all this access for free? It's because I'm getting something from you that is maybe not clear to you. And this is where other bigger firms come into place. So the way any broker works, and remember, broker is an intermediary that sits between the client or the investor and the rest of the market. It gives you access, so it gives you, they sit in the middle. If you want to buy Apple, then either I have Apple in my balance sheet and I can sell it to you, and then I go to the market and buy again, or I can just simply be a pass-through mechanism. So I connect you with the market, so that you can buy it off whoever, the New York Stock Exchange or whoever investor is at the other end, and I just charge you a commission. But they're saying, no, fuck that. I'm not going to charge you anything. What I'm going to do, I'm going to give you this for free, as in you're not going to pay any commission. You're just going to pay the price of the stock. And then, but that information that you want to buy Apple at this price, I am selling it to a bigger firm. In this case, the biggest one is called Citadel. And this is what's called payment for orders flow. So Citadel is paying Robinhood to receive that information beforehand. We're talking about seconds, milliseconds, so that Citadel can make the operation before the
It's like Robin Hood is sleeping with the queens, with the queen of the kingdom, something like that.
Exactly. So,
Wow.
but then this is where it gets fucked up. This is where it gets.
But it seems like
Sorry, and they are the real client, right? Like they are the real. They're making more money from Citadel than from all of the little investors.
Exactly.
Probably.
Right. This is the business model, and this is what is not clear in the terms and conditions. This is what this is what doesn't come in their marketing, saying that you have the right. Actually, they were not joking, but they were putting out the tweets from Robinhood in 2016 when they were not that big, and they were saying on Twitter, let the people trade. And it's like, that aged well now.
Speaking of tweets,
Yeah.
speaking of tweets, the best tweet of the year was like an account. I tweeted on my account. It was like an account of an actual Robinhood account, like from some guy who calls himself Robinhood, and he's like, and he got just like 2 million followers yesterday. And he was like, everybody, welcome to the, what's the name of the town of Robinhood? I don't remember right now, but
Nottingham.
Nottingham. Yeah, welcome to Nottingham. Yeah, to Nottingham Forest, everybody. Now, sorry, I interrupted you there, bro. Carry on.
No, it's okay. And then the second, but by the way, this thing of paying for this is called payment for order flow. In the US, is completely legal. In Europe and the UK, it's not. The regulators in Europe and the UK, they banned this practice in 2014. In the US, this is perfectly legal. It's perfectly normal. They do it. All of the brokers can do it. And it's a shame because it's an obvious conflict of interest. But they are saying, look, if ultimately the client gets the share that they want at the price they want, who cares? Well, someone is eating the meal afterwards, and they're not sharing that meal. But anyway, and then the second element, which is very important and that makes it even more complex, is that every time that Robinhood actually processes the trade, like Leo wants to buy Apple, or in this case Gamestop, then Robinhood, when Leo does this via options, again, not necessarily via the actual stock, but
options
via options
means that I will get it in the future, right?
That you will get it in the future if you exercise it, or if you can actually sell the option before the date of expiry, and you just realize the profit, and that's it.
So Robinhood informs, like, listen, Leo will buy Apple tomorrow, maybe.
No, Leo has the right to buy Apple tomorrow if tomorrow it expires, but he can decide not to do it. He can decide to sell this to Amilcar, who is effectively going to claim it at the expiry date.
But isn't that like some sort of insider information in a way? Like, maybe that's
yes and no, because the selling of the data is because ultimately who takes it to the market to execute it is that firm that is paying for the flow. So they are providing a service to Robinhood.
Because Robinhood buys through those companies.
In theory, and how it works in Europe is that you shouldn't give the order to the one that pays you. You should find the best price for the client, and that's the one who gets it.
So it would be kind of like as if Twitter and the New York Times start working together. And so if I want to get something printed in the New York Times, I write on Twitter, and then Twitter contacts the New York Times. This is an important metaphor, and I think it's a bridge that we can make. And then it comes to the New York Times like, look, Leo wants to say this. And then the New York Times know that before it prints it first. And also, it's kind of like the New York Times gets this information, which is Leo will say this later.
Yes, we'll say this, and the New York Times is responsible for publishing it.
Exactly.
But the New York Times, the only merit for knowing this is that they're paying Twitter more money.
Okay, I see.
Than the competition. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So it creates a competition. But what I'm saying is that the other thing is that regulation imposes to companies like Robinhood that for every certain amount that their clients like Leo, like Amilcar, are buying options, are going to the market, they need to put their own money as collateral. Why? Because these trades, they're not
Who
immediate.
has to put that money?
Robinhood. They need to put it with a central counterparty.
Okay.
Which is called a clearinghouse. They need to put money there because these trades are not immediate. These trades take like 2-3 days effectively to hit your account. Because ultimately when you're buying Apple or you're buying any share or GameStop, you're not buying it from GameStop. You're buying it from someone who already has it. So that company in the middle needs to find who is selling it. So this is why stock market exists, like the exchanges exist, because they organize buyers and sellers. And this company in the middle, so the regulation demands, right, in case the other leg fails to deliver the transaction, like it's like when you order something from Amazon, in case the seller, you don't get the thing that you bought, then we'll go to that money that we force you to put in as collateral to satisfy the customer in the end, so that no one gets harmed. And the problem is that the demand was so high that Robinhood needed to put more than 200 billion, almost in there. Not 200 billion is too much. 200 million on day one, on day two, and so on. And it started growing and growing and growing. And this is where they had to contact the banks and say, guys, we need you to lend us money because we cannot do this. And the bank said at some point, at some point, the bank said, like, guys, we're not going to lend you anymore, so you're going to have to stop.
Yeah, is that the rationale why they stopped the trade? I mean, is supposedly that why they stopped the trading, because they couldn't absorb this?
Yes. Now, what Dave Portnoy is claiming, and this is he's right to claim that, because, or to at least make the question, is because it's not clear if that pressure came, for instance, the banks not wanting to release the credit line so that Robinhood could put more collateral, or if it was actually this Citadel company and the others saying, like, you're gonna fuck my buddies.
Yes.
Because again, you remember that Citadel, the one that pays for the orders of Robinhood clients?
Yeah.
They also own parts of the hedge funds that were going against GameStop. So it's like a whole incestuous situation.
It's a human centipede, man.
Yeah. So it's I overcomplicated the whole thing, but it's because essentially it's not simple. So, but what I mean is that Robinhood and all of the rest of the brokers, they have this written in their terms and conditions. They do this all the time. I work for a broker in the UK as well.
Yeah.
It's not like Robinhood, all these things, because it's a broker that mostly offers foreign exchange. So you trade currencies and so on. And whenever the markets go crazy and you don't know what effectively you're going to do, you can actually pull this clause from your terms and conditions saying, look, we just cannot allow you to buy euros today, for instance. We just cannot.
The broker decides that. The broker decides that.
The broker decides that, because otherwise they may be in problems of liquidity, of solvency, and the company can go bust.
So it would be like Twitter saying you cannot tweet today about, whatever.
Exactly. Let's use Twitter as an analogy. Imagine that for every tweet that Donald Trump was sending, there were quite a few a day, Twitter had to put money with a central counterparty in case Donald Trump would blow something. At some point, Twitter was going to be like, this is crazy. I don't have any more money to put there. I have drained all my resources, and the guy is not stopping. And the rest of the guys will say, well, I'm sorry, but this is the rules. This is the regulation. You still need to put more money, and he's still tweeting. So where's the money?
Or Jack Dorsey. I mean, then that's one side, right? And the other side is like Jack Dorsey is what's like the president of Twitter is ideologically leaning towards betting against Donald Trump, so that's why Donald Trump's tweets are stopped. And we're getting
Exactly.
and we're going back to some sort of parallel as well circumstances. Like, I mean, the market or the internet makes a move, and everybody's like, okay, we don't know really what was the underlying reasons. Was it to protect?
Exactly right. Now the problem is that obviously PR is shit. And the communications department of Robinhood think probably that they're very clever, and they went to say to the founders, like, go on CNN and say, oh, we did this to protect the customers.
Yeah.
Come on.
Well, it's like Twitter saying that they're doing all of this to protect our freedom of speech.
Exactly.
Yeah, they did it.
Exactly right. Yeah, go on.
I remember a tweet that is a contestant for tweet of the day yesterday. I don't remember who did it, but it said Robinhood is banning outsider trading. Come on. That's hilarious.
Yeah, exactly right. So and then it gets even worse. Like you could even start seeing the ramifications of all of these bigger investment firms. They fund political campaigns. They actually pay money to now the Secretary of the Treasury in every speech. Like she used to charge like hundreds of thousands of dollars for every speech that she would give.
Yeah.
It's so there's the word here, or the theme here, is conflict of interest. And this is where it's so one thing is pulling the terms and conditions and saying, hey, we did this because otherwise we would go bust. But the problem is, at least in regulation in Europe and the UK speaks very clearly that you cannot, whatever measure that you take to protect a group, so you cannot choose something to allegedly protect a customer that ends up benefiting a group against or to the prejudice of others.
But that's kind of like the story of the modern internet. I mean,
that's the thing. So I think this is something. This is just a tip of the iceberg, and probably Amilcar, you know far more of the this internet story than I do, and I would be very, very curious to hear your opinion. But there's many people that want to actually break the internet, so to speak, like the monopolies that Google have, Facebook have, Amazon have over a number of things, and particularly over the use of data. In this case, the data is financial decisions that would make people a lot of money. But then obviously, when they stop, they press the pause, and people can no longer buy. If no one can buy, obviously the prices start crashing and crashing and crashing. So if you have these little guys on Reddit, other than the founder of the group, whatever, who is now a millionaire, if you enter late to the party with your 10K that you have in your life savings, you're gone. No one is going to give you that money back.
I want to shift this towards. I mean, I'm really interested in the story of Parler, because I do see some sort of parallel here in between kind of the regulators or the companies kind of intervening into quote unquote protecting the people, right?
Yeah.
But in the end, just kind of pursuing their own interests. And this was the spirit of the initial question that I dropped to Amilcar, how do you feel about all this movement that the internet has brought us to, in which we're in a moment in which we're kind of like given the spoon of freedom. It's something like that. It's like, open your mouth and take your freedom, sir. I mean, was this something that you were expecting? Was this something that you were expecting to happen, or are you shocked about the development of things? And is it gonna get worse in your opinion, or how do you feel about that?
I tried not to be hopeful because I've been burned so many times, but there's like something is happening. Like people are realizing the dangers of centralization. I don't want to go to a specific case, but Twitter banning the president of the United States says a lot.
Yeah.
Maybe some people think he deserved it, some people think he didn't. That doesn't matter. The thing is the power that these people have, and there are only like 7 companies, maybe if you go to the whole world, maybe there are 10 companies or 15. Like that's a lot of power to have. And
Yeah.
the other movement that's coming the other way, it's leaded like the leader if is Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is a decentralized system, and uh, decentralization has a lot of amazing qualities, but it also has a lot of uh, like you have to make sacrifices.
Right.
Yeah.
You can't like the systems can't be as efficient if they are decentralized.
Yeah.
Obviously, no, like Bitcoin maybe the more the more the criticisms you see more are like it's not scalable, like it's not it will never uh, be it could never serve the whole world, like it works now because only a few people are using it, but it's not if we go wide it will never do that. And maybe they're right in that uh, uh, like people are working on this problem right now, like very smart people. I don't know if they will solve it, I hope they do, but they, like these are the sacrifices you have to make, like no nothing is perfect,
Yeah.
and a decentralized system has all these characteristics, and we're just getting started, like this is a part, basically a new movement. Like Bitcoin is the first, like the spearhead of this movement, but and we are realizing a lot of things watching it unfold.
Yeah.
But maybe like I know there are like there is a system called Mastodon that is like a Twitter, a decentralized Twitter,
Uh-huh.
and you host your own server, and your server can connect to other servers, but there's no central server. I haven't used it yet, but and I don't think it's popular enough. Like things like Parler and Gab and all those new services that started rising with the right, the
Yes.
American right, they are centralized still,
Absolutely.
like
Yeah. Yeah. No, they
just
are the same.
other yeah, they are the same thing, but owned by uh, people that are that are uh, like other ideologies,
Yeah.
but they are the same. Like truly decentralized system. I don't know if decentralization will work the way I envision it in my like maybe I'm naive, and I think that it will solve a lot of problems, but we have to see. We don't know. But I have uh, let going back to the beginning. I
Yeah.
have a little hope that maybe those things, that maybe decentralization will make uh, like an like the internet I want, like the internet I long for,
Yeah.
that is no
I
longer here.
I guess that it goes back. There is this kind of recurring question. There are two recurring questions, which is, which are, sorry, one of them, like, if I say something on the internet and you go and do something because of what I say, am I responsible for what you did? So that's the question A. And the question B is, the platform where I said that, is it responsible for what I said? Because that's the, I mean, I am the camp of like, hey man, if I say on the internet, go and drink a beer, and you go and drink a beer, and then you fell on the staircase because you drink a beer, that's absolutely not my problem. And I know that this reaches a, there is a point when this breaks down. I understand that, like what I just said, there is a point when this breaks down. It's something like, but I don't understand that point. That's a good source of, of beer conversation material, because like, where do you guys stand in that sense? Like, because decentralization is going to hit that rock the moment somebody makes a school shooting because of something that somebody said, of incitation of violence. And so then who do you make accountable for that? I live in this sort of libertarian utopia in my head, in which it's like, well, listen, that has to be let happen in a way. It's just like, it's the fault of the actors. It's not the fault of the platform. I know that it's very interesting, because you see, the reason why I brought you two together is because the financial markets and the internet are now having the same debate. It's like, should we regulate free speech, or should we regulate freedom of exchange? I guess that in the financial markets it's a little bit different, right?
The thing is that separation no longer exists. Everything is so interconnected, and now, precisely since the appearance of internet and the free flow of information, there's actually no excuse to say, like, oh, I don't know anything about finance, or me saying I don't know anything about internet. That doesn't mean that
or I don't know anything about shooting somebody will kill them. I mean,
yeah. So I that's not to say that all of us need to be uber experts in everything. That's not the point, but at least sufficiently informed, because we are, as individuals, have the liberty to choose what do we want to consume. So if I sit at home all day just watching Instagram, looking at, or whatever, football videos, or that's my prerogative. Now the problem here is the following: as Amilcar was saying, the debate between centralization and decentralization is very important, because take your example, Leo, that you're saying whose responsibility is and whether platforms are accountable. So let's imagine for a second that you have a fully decentralized social media, and it's completely governed by the people, and that's it. I don't know how it would work, whether the algorithms that present you with the information would work in the same way. Because the thing with the algorithms is that they have been designed to maximize precisely the revenue of the platform that is offering you the service. And again, because you are not the client, you're a user, and there's a difference between a user and a client is important. Like if you have a dog and you see a commercial of dog food, who's the user and who's the client? The user is the dog. He's the one that actually consumes the product, but the client is you. You're the one who's paying. So who is the advertising targeted to? In the case of Twitter, Facebook, and all these things, they have an incentive of creating an algorithm to drive you and to feed you with more and more information to make you act in a certain way. If you saw The Social Dilemma on Netflix, yeah. I don't know, if that's like true story, as in true story.
No, I'm pretty sure that's how it works.
Biased or not, there's an element of drama as well in the part where the three little men appear in the master room and saying, like, this is what we're going to feed you. But it's effectively like this, as in I was speaking to my wife, like, oh, my back hurts so much, and then next thing I do when I open my Instagram, I have an ad on. It's like, what this thing is spying on us. And regardless of if you have your microphones shut down, or these things are spying on us. So
a decentralized system will perhaps not have such an algorithm, in the sense that, for example, Bitcoin, does Bitcoin have an algorithm like that? No, right? I mean, it's not favoring any trade in particular.
But it's open source. Yeah. So anyone that would want to create it, if there's too many mechanisms. Like Bitcoin operates on a consensus mechanism, and it's a full consensus mechanism, the proof of work and not proof of stake. So that's why one of the proponents of Bitcoins are, and I agree with them, is far more democratic, because it's the one that works the most, the one that gets the reward. And then you only publish the results in the network when they are completely verified. Yes, then you have other things like the Lightning Network and the nodes and so on that is far more complicated. I would agree with you that ideally a decentralized, like, let's say, blockchain-based social network or social media would not have these algorithms, and you would only see what you really want to see, and you would only follow, and you would not have these promoted ads about things like not right now that everyone is just going through the markets. What do you get when you open a video on YouTube? even if you want to I'm sure that I don't know, Leo, with your son, if you put some YouTube videos. My son, he loves rocket launch, like NASA rocket launch. And every time I put a video on YouTube, then every 5 seconds I have an advert of a trading platform coming up. Why? Because I'm reading the stuff on trading all the time. So I would hope that in a world of fully decentralization, you actually it would be fair. There's nothing that you would need to be sold, because you are not the product of anyone.
Exactly.
But that sounds like very much a utopia. I just don't know, and I agree with you. Again, it's like I don't think that I should be responsible. It's like Ricky Gervais was saying on his stand-up comedy, which was brilliant. It's like the problem is that people take things like way too personal on Twitter. It's like, when you see something back in our beloved Venezuela, you would go into a public toilet and you would see all these things written on the walls, and you would think that all of them are for you. And you would come out from taking a shit and all upset because you read all these things. It's like, but relax, that's not for you. So
now this really interestingly connects with a conversation that we were having recently on Twitter, the three of us. I mean, that I kind of started answering to some Peter Thiel message, and about gold, and that's another of the reasons why I actually decided to bring them both here. One question there.
It was another guy. Sorry.
It
wasn't Peter Thiel. It was
No,
You're right. It was Peter Schiff. It was Peter Schiff.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now the next question is this: if I can load onto the blockchain, which I believe you can. I mean, I could potentially layer on top of the blockchain a social media, right? A social media platform. Okay, then that argumentation and question of the value of Bitcoin gets settled. I mean, it's like the value of Bitcoin, it's the capacity to let's say to layer on top of something, it's like a platform where you can layer things that are certified to be true despite of nobody checking that. Would this be it? You see my point? Would this be a good way to see the value of Bitcoin? It's like it's a true platform without moderation. Or am I going too far?
No. Sorry.
Yeah.
Bitcoin is just a decentralized way of exchanging value, and that's it. That's everything. All it does. Ethereum is different because Ethereum is a platform in which you can build things, and you could even probably build a social media platform. I'm not sure, but they have built a lot of things over Ethereum. But Bitcoin is not that. Bitcoin is just
it's one application of the blockchain. It's just one application of the blockchain.
I beg, sorry, to disagree on that.
Go for it.
Because Bitcoin is a protocol. So the thing is that there's the way I learned it, of course. Imagine Bitcoins one with capital B and the other with small caps. Yeah.
What's the difference? Sorry, I lost you there. The big capital B.
Bitcoin with capital B, as in with tall B, and Bitcoin with
small b.
Small cap. Yeah.
Okay.
So Bitcoin with capital B is the network of decentralized computers that are just basically performing operations of verifying all the algorithms and finding an answer to then be published to the blockchain.
And basically, excuse me to interrupt, but creating a list. It's like a list.
So it's the ledger. So that's what it is. And then Bitcoin with small cap is the token, is the coin, is the value that you're exchanging. Effectively, the thing is that it's far more costly and complicated, but you can certainly build applications on top of the Bitcoin network and benefit from that fully decentralized network. The problem is that it costs more money, or more value, so to speak, than doing it on Ethereum. On Ethereum, it's far cheaper and faster, because you don't need the things that with the miners that they need to kind of like decide. The cost of the transactions in Bitcoin can be a little bit more expensive, depending on the priority and so on. There's like several levels of how fast can you achieve the results.
Do I get more safety or more speed because of using the Bitcoin network?
It's the proof of work versus the proof of stake. There's a lot of things going on there. And this is why people have chosen Ethereum to build stuff, because they said, fuck that, I don't want to do it that complicated. I can just basically create, I just jump on top of the Ethereum platform and do decentralized apps. It's like this guy was saying, the first decentralized finance app or decentralized whatever app that you have in this world is Bitcoin. Now, you can exchange money, but you can use the network to do so many other things. And there's this thesis that they say that if effectively all the other alternative cryptos, or like they call it romantically, the shitcoins, end up disappearing, and then most of the projects that these people are trying to do are going to move on top of the Bitcoin blockchain. That I don't know if possible it is.
I've been hearing this move so fast that it's hard to be on top of it, but I remembered that they are effectively working to make a smart contract in the Bitcoin network.
Yeah.
So I think you're right, and I was wrong, but I can't think of another thing that is built over Bitcoin. Are there things running right now that are built over Bitcoin?
It's a fair point, because the thing is that the market has decided that the sole purpose of Bitcoin at the moment is being a store of value.
Yeah.
No, it's being a store of value.
Yeah, store of value.
Is to hedge against the traditional system. And this is very important, because it didn't start like this. If you read the original paper, the title of the paper is a peer-to-peer cash system.
Yeah.
It's a payment system. If you hear to all the Bitcoin evangelists, which by the way, I'm sick of them.
Yeah.
I mean, they should really stop. Like they are, Jehovah's Witnesses are like really nice guys in comparison to these guys. But they are only waiting for the pandemic to stop and the lockdown to stop to go knocking on doors to say, have you heard of Satoshi Nakamoto? Like, they should really stop, in my opinion. But anyway, so the problem is that these guys are saying that you should use Bitcoin as money, as in you should pay your coffee with Bitcoin, you should be able to pay your rent with Bitcoin. Whereas the market has said, fuck that. I don't need to pay with Bitcoin. Bitcoin is going to be the standard by which wealth is going to be measured.
Yeah.
And this is something that I really, really agree with.
Yeah, because right now there's an incentive not to use your Bitcoin. Because if the price keeps going up, I'm not going to be the guy who bought the pizza for 10,000 Bitcoins.
Bravo.
So I don't want to use them. So now it's a sort of value, but maybe that will change in the future when there's not that much incentive. Like Bitcoin is going to stabilize sometime. Maybe not in our lifetime, but if we see it in a long span of time, it has to stabilize someday.
I think if I do like if I let myself go and throw like a forecast, and I'm not good at that. I'm terrible at that. I always fail.
Yeah.
But I'm borrowing from an old boss of mine who said the real game will start when you are not talking about Bitcoin, but about the Satoshis.
Yeah, exactly.
So imagine one Satoshi,
for those
$1.
who don't know, like the Satoshis are the infinitesimal segmentations of a Bitcoin.
The problem that I have with that, and it's something I didn't say to him back then, but I started reflecting on that. It's like, if you think about it, and I'm sorry for my Japanese friends, but Satoshi for a currency is like a really shitty name.
What does it mean? Well, it's a nice name, but does it has? It just sounds bad. You mean, or does it have a meaning?
Can you imagine someone in in Mexico saying like it's just?
But you can say, think about it. It can be catchy.
Like,
20 satos. 20 satos. That's not bad.
I don't know. I don't know. Like, look, marketing is an art, and I just think that if that's a pseudonym, like, why did you choose that? And who cares about the name of the founder? But why did you put your own name to the minimum denomination of a currency?
Yeah.
Unless we have it even with our own home currency.
So there will be the
Uh,
Gavottis or the Ortegas.
exactly. No, but even our own home currency, the Bolivar. I mean, we don't get me wrong. I love my country's history, even though
Yeah.
it's been raped and stopped on
Pillaged.
so many times. Yes, but it's a disfavor to put a surname as the name of a currency. I think
Yeah,
peso,
What
dollar
happened
is
with the knowledge of who is Satoshi? Like,
you're absolutely right,
what
man.
happened with the knowledge of who is Satoshi? Like, is this something that has never been cleared out? I know there has been rumors, but I kind of lost the eye on Bitcoin's source.
No,
no,
nobody knows
nobody
really
knows.
for sure.
Probably it's the guy from Reddit, the guy that started the whole thing. Well, who knows?
Who knows?
I have a.
But yeah, I
Go
have
ahead.
thought about that, about the Bolivar. Like, that's such an insult to Bolivar, what
Yeah,
happened to the coin, that I
Yes.
think you're absolutely right. Like, if it's winning, it's great that it's called Satoshi, but if it's not, it would be a disaster.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So they should probably submit to a voting in the Bitcoin network to change the name of the minimal fraction of a Bitcoin, and probably they will make it work.
Okay, when I hear the word Bitcoin network, because I mean, where we're going with all this conversation is about decentralization, centralization. So, what does it mean that there are people who can make decisions about some elements of Bitcoin? I mean, I know that this doesn't affect the algorithm of it, but is there a sensation? Is there a fear that Bitcoin can kind of like tilt towards some sort of centralization in a point, or that's mathematically impossible, or are you guys afraid of that?
I'm not, because there's an incentive to keep it the way it is, and that's a monetary incentive, and that's what people respond to. Like, if they change, uh, fundamentally change the whole plan, Bitcoin can go to zero. So, and they don't want that. So I don't think that is a problem.
And I guess
Yeah,
that,
I
yeah,
agree.
go ahead.
I agree. I think that you know that can certainly happen with Ethereum and other cryptos, and that could happen in the world if people abandon Bitcoin. But Bitcoin itself, unless they were to all of the miners who are the ones who support the operation decide not to do it anymore unless there are fundamental changes in the code. But
Yeah.
if that happens, then it stops being Bitcoin and it becomes something else, because not only you need to fork it, you need to create another blockchain and call it like different. Like that happened once when they did the increase of the block size, and they started creating Bitcoin Cash, and then they started creating also then Bitcoin Satoshi's Vision, and so many forks that have happened. So that becomes something else, and yet the market has gone always to the original one. So I'm not going to say that Bitcoin is going to rule the world. Potentially, yes, I would like that to happen. Um, in the sense, again, I think my hypothesis is that it's like I said, the way that the wealth is going to be measured, and we will go in, like before it was the gold, the standard of wealth. I think it will be Bitcoin at some point, and for that to happen is you just need the most powerful central banks to start saying like, okay, we'll have it as part of our international reserves, and then start from there.
Okay, so to not transform the podcast into a Bitcoin evangelist platform, I just want to say before I move on to another topic, which is that I was the guy who bought pizzas for Bitcoins. I mean, in a way, I don't know if I told you that I bought Bitcoins at $100 like ages ago, but what I bought with that money when I sold them was a recording studio. So I'm kind of happy. I'm kind of happy with that decision in a
Can
way.
I just say, Leo, because of course we know each other for a while,
Yeah.
and you were very into Bitcoin
Yes.
when the whole thing just started.
Yes.
I thought in 2017, it's like, man,
Leo
Leo
must be
must be
swimming in cash.
millionaire. Like he must be minted. Like
Man.
I mean,
Man, if I may tell you the lyrics of a song that I wrote about this, I'm going to do that right now. So the song is called "Learn to Walk Before You Run." And so it's a song about the conversation between my wife and me, and it's related to the fact that all the money I lost because of bad decisions related to crypto. So the song kind of goes like this. As I lay beside the road with my eyes burnt and the crust of my soul frozen solid, I wondered how I got here. And I remember feeling wise and the thought of confidence. And I remember the look in your eyes, telling to my wife, as you trusted my ways while I started running. Learn to walk before you run. Learn to walk before you run. It's a good advice. Looking straight into your sun may burn or where was it? May burn or I just lost the words there. It can burn your eyes. That's what I was trying to say. If you look straight into your sun, you can get your eyes burned. I mean, I totally blew it back then, and it was, who was the motherfucker who made me blew it? Well, it was myself, but I was following Max Kaiser in that moment.
Oh God, that guy.
So yeah, there you go. So I destroyed my online presence by saying that, but yeah,
I started, I have to thank him because I also started knowing about Bitcoin because I was at home not doing much and I was watching the Kaiser report, and RT was the only decent channel that I could see back then. Can you imagine how shit the other were? So
I but also, man, to be fair with RT flipped in a point. It was interesting. I really think
it was interesting. I did enjoy a few shows, but Max Kaiser, I could, I thought it was like, some weirdo, but at least the Bitcoin section got me interested, and I started looking at that, and we talked around the time, which is why. And to your defense, no one knew that this thing, no one actually truly believed that this thing would have gone so far. Plus, we are not geared to understand what a 200% gain means.
Yeah.
We as human beings, we are so, first of all, we none of us thinks that much of ourselves. So if you buy something and it goes up like 30%, you feel like you're a millionaire now. Yeah. So you probably sell it just because you don't know if it's going to crash. So whoever, that's why like 2% of the people control all the Bitcoins, because whoever just fell asleep and forgot they had it and are now enjoying the games because literally they forgot they had it.
Yeah. You know what happened to me? I saw myself checking the value of Bitcoin while driving. This was back then. I was like, oh my god, what the hell, man? Like I thought, dude, this is not my profession. That's it. I'm out. Like that's what I thought back then. And also I met the people to build a recording studio, and I was like, all right, there you go, $10,000. So let's liquidate this. Bam. And I bought them at 100 and I sold them at 700. So it was kind of not such a bad deal for me.
Look, peace of mind comes before everything else. You can't, it doesn't matter having $1 million in the bank if you're an absolute lunatic.
Yeah, and I'm absolutely terrible at finance in the sense that for me, perhaps the experience of having run a recording studio for 10 years is just worth more than anything else. Like, and all the human capital that I obtained, it's priceless. It cannot be valued.
You can always buy again. You can always buy again, and that's it. You probably won't be a billionaire, but you can be a billionaire. I mean, who knows?
Yeah, man. I don't think it's too late.
Awesome.
I think early days still.
Excellent. Actually,
but we won't be held accountable. This isn't financial advice.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. This is not financial advice.
So check this out.
Broke. Don't listen to me.
Check this out. We reached to this point right now. And so, it's like a mountain we've been climbing of everything that has happened. And now the question is kind of like, where does this go next according to you? I mean, we have two things. We have the platform of trading money and the platform of trading free speech. What implications, first, I mean, I guess to give a bit of time to Amilcar, like what implications do you see the whole events that have happened recently? I'm not talking about the financial events, but the fact that, I'm focused so much on the Parler case because Parler is I don't care about the platform Parler at all. I just came that Twitter came out of Twitter and blocked Parler. I mean, it was like, it was really fun. I mean, it was like, wow. So what are you expecting? Are you expecting this to carry on in that sense, or are you expecting some sort of like revolution coming from the insides of the internet, or?
I don't know. I think we let it happen. It was our fault. We fall in this trap, and Twitter is it is still maybe, I don't know, my favorite social network, and to see it doing all these things, it just breaks my heart.
Yeah.
But I think it's an effort. Uh, 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 I don't know how to say it, like an effort, un esfuerzo
Like
conjunto,
a
like
joint
A
effort.
collective effort, yes, joint
a
effort.
joint effort. Yeah, a joint effort. I don't think it's by chance. I think everybody is marching to a beat uh, that I don't know who's playing the drums, but the censorship is happening. Like the internet, if now that it has already started and it feels like very dystopian and uh, uh, uncomfortable.
Yes.
It's just starting. It's just starting. It's
Oh,
going to be
man.
awful, and I don't see the solution yet. But uh, I think it has to happen. It has something has to give. I don't think it can stay censored because it's too powerful. It's like they are like putting harness in a dragon. Like maybe uh, they can control it for a while, but in the long term, I think that dragon wants to be free. Hopefully, I don't know.
Yeah.
And so you see, what you just said connects really cool with it, in the sense that, are you expecting the dragon that it's being controlled by restricting what Robinhood can do to come with a vengeance later to hit the financial markets even harder? Is this conversation being held in the financial world? You see my point, right?
Yeah, yes, it goes deeper than that.
Yeah, that's. I
So,
always
so,
like when answers start like that.
but on that specific point, and even still talking about crypto and blockchain, which also ties in very well. Uh, there's a lot of blockchain-based apps like decentralized exchanges where they're saying, look, this operates on a blockchain
So
system,
it
so
would be
no
like
one can
Robinhood, but not giving the information that I
exactly,
have to
and
the other guys.
it's completely decentralized. The very users are the
Why
ones that.
isn't that more popular? Is it because of a matter of capacity of handling information, or is it because people are afraid of the decentralized network?
No, it's just because it's difficult. I mean, to promote something when you cannot put it in layman's terms.
And
So
also, and also
if you
maybe
speak
people
to
don't like things that humans don't control. I mean, maybe we're not used to this yet, even though it's contradictory. It's like we want to hire a hijacker to
the
hijack
thing
us.
that's the thing. It's like you don't have any protections but yourself and what the blockchain will give you. But again, if you lose your money, you lose your money. Whereas people prefer, like, no, I prefer to still stick to Robinhood because at least
There is a
if they
person
go
there.
bust, there's a regulator that will give me X amount of money. That these people have been there a while, blah blah blah. There's too many things that affect it. But adoption takes time. I agree with Amilcar that people are starting to find out, like, cracks are starting to appear in the system. When I say it's deeper than that,
Yeah.
I don't want to sound like esoteric or like astrologist or whatever. I hate astrology, but it's I think we are in a fundamental existential crisis in the world.
Absolutely.
It's a change of paradigm that is starting, and these changes of paradigms never go easily. They don't go from one day to the other. People are starting to note and to understand that internet is not free, that financial markets are not free. Free markets are actually not free, and they don't exist. They don't own anything, and I think people don't own anything. And is I found this very, very shocking when a very long time ago I read, like, whenever you go to browse on the internet, what do? Most people go to Google and you start
Yeah.
Googling stuff, but you're not going on the internet. You're going on Google's portion of the
Yeah.
internet.
Yeah.
And that
Yeah.
was very, very clear to me when the social networks starting to have their own browsers. If you click on a link on Facebook, it doesn't take you to Chrome. It doesn't take you to your browser. It takes you to Facebook's browser.
Yeah.
You're navigating on Facebook's internet, Facebook space in the internet. You're not using internet. That's like in an analogy, like what they say to our brains, like we only use like 2% of our brains or whatnot.
We
I
only
mean,
use like 2% of the internet.
it's true. It's true. Well, this whole dark web thing that, to me is quite scary. I don't want to enter because I still value my life. I don't want, all of a sudden be, caught into a network of, traffic of children that I don't.
But yeah,
Something like that.
can it happen? Can you end up in some sort of like
I don't know.
without your
Because
consent?
there's people that are far smarter than me
Yeah.
on the dark web. I don't know if there's a way that you are exposed so people can steal your data and so on. I'm too ignorant to still try it, so I'm afraid of doing that. This is why I don't like to step into the dark web yet. But that's like, the percentage of the real internet that there is. Probably that some people don't really are not prepared and wouldn't really like to see how the real world is. It's like someone that grew up in, I don't know, in
Manhattan?
London or
Okay, in Manhattan.
Boston or something like very flowery and beautiful, and all of a sudden you drop him in Zimbabwe.
Yeah, or in Venezuela.
It's like you said it beautifully, Leo. You one of your best quotes in your life, and I always say this to everyone. It's like a very good friend of mine said, referring to you,
Yeah.
that the world looks more like Venezuela
Of
than
course.
it looks to England.
Of course.
It's more similar to Venezuela than it is to England. And you're so right. Every time I travel, I see this. Even if you go, like I go a lot to Italy and to Spain. If you go into the normal neighborhoods, it's no different than walking downtown Caracas.
Yeah.
It's exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
It's only in the extremes where it differs.
And people live with this fantasy
well-
of how the world is, that it's really distorted. It's like the world is not like Manhattan or like Berlin or something like that. And I get this clash a lot in Russia. Sometimes I'm standing, the city is magnificent. It's like,
I'll be
go.
I'll be right back.
Go for it. The city is so large and so dense and so packed of everything happening. And I get these commentaries, which is like, nothing is happening here. Everything is boring and everything is unsafe, and it's like, man, I mean, if you could only zoom out and see where I come from, you will really quickly realize that the world doesn't look like this. And well, anyways, we got off topic there for a bit, and I'm really curious to see what's the feeling in the financial markets about what can happen next, because it feels like there are a lot of people with tiki torches on the door trying to burn something out.
That's a right analogy, because and there was an article that probably you read from 2014 about a very wealthy guy saying that what's coming is pitchforks unless we do something about it.
Yeah.
The thing is that in this case, I think that what's going to happen next in the financial markets is, well, the rules are very clear, and people are going to try, when I say people, institutions are going to try and use those rules to their favor. So lawsuits are going to come from against Robinhood and all the sorts. But again, these people have not
lawsuits. People are gonna sue Robinhood.
Yeah,
like
they have done it already. They
because
have presented.
I was reading the thing, which is like, imagine. Well, I don't know if that's why you could get a lawsuit, but maybe I have some stock in Gamestop right now, frozen there, that I cannot sell, and then the price is gonna fall down later, and then I'm gonna lose some money. But you cannot sue them for that, right?
No. I mean, no. Because again, what Robinhood has done is not illegal. But you can argue that is unethical and it's unfair,
and
which
it's
is
contrary to their market proposition.
Now again, the point here is that in the US, it's pretty much everything is about the letter of the law rather than the spirit of the law. So this means that if it's in the book, it's okay. So and the best case to explain this, as I was saying on Twitter recently, is the case of the Olympics.
Yeah.
Like, in 2012, the Chinese teams were basically colluding with and they lose on purpose so that they would meet in the final, as opposed to clash in the semifinals, so that both the Chinese teams would take the gold and silver, and they played awfully on purpose. Now, there's nowhere in the rule book to say that you should not play to lose. But that goes against the spirit of the Olympics, so they got disqualified. They didn't do anything illegal. yet they got disqualified. In this case, in the US, it's something unprecedented, and it's going to be very tricky because, number one, the conflict of interest that exists, but now you have other actors that got interested, the politicians. So, and when the politicians get interested into something, especially if it goes hand in hand with their ulterior motivations, as in if they have an agenda of, again, undermining some parts of the system, then it can be very powerful. I think, first of all, I think the US is fucked in general. It's starting to get fucked.
Yeah, I agree.
And they're going to be rotten in the next probably 30 to 40 years if things continue as they go.
And I'm telling you, Vladimir Putin is looking all of this from his chair, really happily.
that guy must be like drunk since November.
Yeah.
And happy. I mean, as probably no one else. I don't know. And same as Xi Jinping. I'm looking with interest as what's happening in the Middle East.
Yeah.
With all the peace agreements with Israel. And now you have Saudi Arabia with very interesting changes. But I do think, again, that this change is not just about the financial markets. Now, what can happen next? I was saying in my live and the Instagram live that I did, that Amilcar was referring to, that the images that come to my mind is the ones from the movie, the film, The Last Samurai.
Yeah.
Yes, I was hoping you said that.
yeah, exactly. So you know that last battle, the samurai is a small army, but very, very strong, and they all were coordinated and created this master plan that they were executing beautifully against the emperor's army, and they thought that they were winning until the other side took the machine guns that they bought from the US, and they started basically.
Man, but that's the metaphor. That's the metaphor of the 20th century. Every time in the 21st century, every time we're like, here we go, we get just shelled. Everybody gets shelled. It seems like the structures of power are. I mean, because the structures of power just got a hold of social media and big tech. It's kind of like, because they were always saying, like, if you don't like Twitter, then make your own Twitter. Okay. The guys of Parler were and make their own Twitter, and anyways,
But it's an endless game. So not a single battle will define the future, but the collectively, every time the world is moving towards that change. So right now it's not, Wall Street is not going to end, capitalism is not going to end, but again, cracks are starting to appear. At some point. I'm pro-capitalism.
Me too.
I mean, I think it's a lesser of all evils.
Exactly.
Until something completely different changes. But again, our brains need to be also wired differently. But something within capitalism will change. The problem is allow me to use another analogy, the Lord of the Rings. It's like power comes with a responsibility. And when the guy that had the opportunity to throw the ring into the fire and end all of it, he was like, you know what? No. This is mine now.
You know what's really cool? Last year, and this is gonna every time you start saying, what's very cool, and then you start talking about the Bible, everything is like a little bit conflicting in the sense like, but what's very cool? Last year I went through and read the whole
Bible is cool.
It's amazing. Yeah, I went and when the whole I read the whole Old Testament in a really, really careful, paying attention to the matter. And the bad news, I mean, I once went to see Tool live, which was a very special experience for me, and the whole show started like this. There are good news and bad news. The good news is there are no bad news. And the show started. And that for me was a legendary beginning. But the bad news is, the bad news is here that this case of throwing the ring into the fire or not, and all it coming down to individual responsibility, we have failed that test over and over and over and over again, and it seems like we're going to continue doing it. I don't know. Sometimes I feel that we deserve the comet. As you know, I'm obsessed with this topic of the Younger Dryas, and the fact that their comet happened 10,000 years ago and stuff like that. We deserve it. I mean, it seems like every time we're given the opportunity to make the change, the person who has the ring, just decides to wear it. And you know, I feel that a little bit about Jack Dorsey. It seemed like, you know, all of us who were on Twitter were like, there you go, that's our Frodo, you know, like he's going to carry the ring and throw it into the fire. I don't know if this was obvious to you maybe earlier, but for me, same with all these guys seem to maybe have a meeting with somebody meaningful in a point that just poop flips their perspective and there is nothing else they can do. Even their hands are tied or their pockets are tied. But I don't know if their pockets are tied. When you are making hundreds of billions of dollars, how much more money can you be bought for? I don't understand that. Like, is it something about...
Maybe there are other concerns, but this is again coming back to Bitcoin. This is where it's more powerful because you don't have a person deciding what's right and what's wrong. It's all coded. And that's it. If you like it, good. If you don't like it, then you're out of it. That's it.
But there seems to, I agree with you, but sorry, there seems to be an underlying theme here, which is some people really need an authority to tell them what to do. And without the authority, or think about it, the boss of the company, like there is not like a capacity to move into a topic or a thought, you know. And COVID has been all about this. The WHO said this, so we must do it, you know. And
but those things will still be there. I mean, it's not that, again, Bitcoin is not going to go to a supermarket for you, and Bitcoin is not going to send you to school or not. It's just an example or a section of your life where you finally can end up having some control if it's successful. At the moment, it's just taking off. I mean, we still live in a traditional world and so on, but a traditional world that is in crisis. Yes, people like the ideal scenario for most people is to have that benevolent dictator, the arrow, the possibility of arrow that we saw in university. That's and that just again is an impossibility. It doesn't exist. So
yes, exactly,
because power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. It's not about money; it's about power. Ultimately, and again, if anyone, I find this guy like Chamath Palihapitiya, who's now like a man of the people now.
Never heard of him. Never heard
of him. Till now. He was actually one of the growth hackers on Facebook, like very senior back in the day, and he went on the Social Dilemma now, and now it's like against these things, and he's now creating deals on Wall Street that are very powerful because he's a growth hacker, and ultimately, and he runs a hedge fund as well called Social Capital, where he connects companies. Like, let's say Leo's company is a small one, and you would never go to a small stock market on your own.
Yep.
So I will merge your company. I will set up a deal to merge you with a company that will go to a stock market or is at the stock market already, so that you get all the benefits of being in a stock market. And all his trades are going like 100 and something percent, thousands and something percent. And the guy's like, some people say that he's going to be the first trillionaire or something like that. But he and I don't know if you will ever see this, he's got a resentment himself. Why? Because the guy, let's face it, we still live in a world that is dominated by white people and so on, and these things. I don't want to get too theatrical about it. The BLM stuff and so on.
Mm-hmm.
But the reality is that there's always two sides to this story. And people who come from minorities do have the baggage or the resentment of being a minority. It's just that they don't recognize it yet. I'm not saying that they are not right in claiming that they were, bullied at school or whatever. You name it, or seriously mistreated in their childhood or when they were going for unemployment. This guy is no Cinderella. He came from a wealthy background because his parents were diplomats and so on.
Yeah.
But he's a minority. So, but now it's like we saw this in our own country when minorities get power. And this guy has a lot of power because he's now minted. He's like seriously wealthy, and he said it and he's actually going for governor. He's running for governor of California now.
Wow.
He said,
is he left-leaning, or he's obviously left-leaning, right?
No, he says that he's going to change the world.
Yeah.
He's like the progressivist.
I'm always afraid of people who say that.
So, and he said on obviously he goes on all these talk shows and says, like, why not me? Like, at some point I said, like, if I want to really change the world, I want to sit in as opposed to fighting against people, I need to make my way to sit in the same table of the powerful, because they will perceive me as a peer and they will listen to me because I have the money, same as them. and that's clever. I'm not saying that the guy's not clever. The guy's smart as fuck, and he's making it. The problem is the psychology. If that guy, if his inner child comes into his head and said, "Now is your time. Now you have the ring. Don't throw it into the fire. Put it on and rule the fucking world." He's going to do it.
Will he keep the ring? What's
but
100%.
Who is going to throw the ring into the fire? Like, I don't even think that I would do it, and I'm like the best.
That's why that film is so good, because the only one that can do it is someone that is pure in heart. It's
the book.
Yeah. Sorry,
sorry.
I have to confess, I haven't read the book.
Same.
Yeah.
Who would throw the ring in the fire, man? That's a good question. Who would throw the ring in the fire?
That book has so many metaphors that are great. Hey, a child, that's a good answer.
Child, absolutely. A child would throw it without thinking about it, man.
That's a great answer.
They're pure.
It has another one that is great. Is like the orb that Saruman uses, and it corrupts him.
Yeah.
It's more or less the same metaphor, but it's a good metaphor. Like, absolute power corrupts.
Continuing with the Lord of the Rings metaphors. Sorry, Amilcar, did you want to say something? Sorry.
Yeah, but it was not about the Lord of the Rings, so maybe you should go.
No, I was just saying that. Do you remember in the Lord of the Rings, there's this king who is possessed by a steward? Seeing Joe Biden signing executive orders just totally felt like that. By the way. It just felt like, really, like, sign this, Mr. President. Yeah, okay, whatever.
The king of Rohan.
Sorry, bro. What? Amilcar, carry on. Sorry.
No, I wanted to say that what you were saying about every guy having a turning point at some point in their life.
Yeah.
Like that, there are dark forces at work, and if someone is getting too powerful, they get the talk. Nobody's going to convince me that doesn't happen. I don't have any proof, but I've seen the change in too many people not to think that. Yeah. I don't know what they tell them. I don't know how the thing works, much less who is the person, but that happens. Dark forces.
Look, I really want to break and every time I have guests and I talk with things, I really want to break the taboo of talking about extraterrestrial life on Earth. Really, and I know that it's like, oh, come on, we went from Bitcoin to extraterrestrial. Oh my God, this is gonna go there. But dude, I mean, if you take this topic seriously, and think about it carefully, it's not absolutely. I have two thoughts to say about that. It's not absolutely crazy to propose that talk can be an external force, and it's not extremely crazy to propose that something like Bitcoin could have created by the external force. I really careful with what I'm saying. I mean, I'm not in the stoner territory only because, I mean, come on, I respect your intellectual integrity, but it's very funny that I have to make this preamble. The universe has more stars than grains of sand in the Earth. It's a fact. You can go and check this. Fact checked it, And every star has every 2 stars has one planet like the Earth. And this is absolutely not like the Earth, but a planet with potential habitability. So, I mean, how stupid you have to think that to propose the idea that it's absolutely crazy to say something like what I'm saying, etc. Maybe I don't want to go down this rabbit hole, but I just want to say that in my private thoughts, I really entertain that possibility. And I don't take it like, I'm not obsessed about it. I don't think that that's what's going on. But it's certainly it occupies a third of my option. It's like 1/3 external forces, 1/3 like whatever, and another third the Clintons or whatever. I don't know.
Look, you don't have to do the introduction or the disclaimer for me, but I get it. I get why you did it.
Yeah.
I There's a guy called Anthony Pompliano,
Hmm.
and he does a Bitcoin podcast.
Yeah.
And he always he's one of those guys that Eduardo is so much a fan, like a Bitcoin
You know what?
enthusiast.
Do you know what?
Yeah,
That
well,
I think he's right. But sorry, go on. I'll say it
yeah.
later.
No, only that he always ends his podcast with that question, like the alien question.
Do you think aliens exist? That's
So
about
it's
it.
not it's not
Listen, I just have this. I just had this fact to drop here. If you can
yeah.
make an intergalactic spacecraft, you can connect to Wi-Fi. I mean, there's no question about that. So that opens a can of worms. If there is something like alien presence on this planet,
Look, I don't know. I'm not going to be narrow-minded to say no, that's not a possibility and so on, because I just don't know.
but they don't have the password,
No
obviously,
one, no,
to the Wi-Fi.
no. The reality is that no one knows.
Yeah.
By the way, that guy Pompliano, I think he's actually all right. He's just again creating that persona, sort of like Dave Portnoy I was saying to, but I just cannot
Yeah.
stand the pomp persona. I cannot stand it. I think it's over the top.
Yeah.
Now, the guy is probably all right, and he probably would be cool to hang out with. Now, about the alien stuff, the problem that I have with that is that we as human beings always want an answer to satisfy our curiosity, and we want a definitive answer. So the alien thing closes all those gaps, meets all, because it's something like, oh yeah, surely, the pyramids, aliens did it.
Yeah.
Bitcoin, aliens did it.
Sure.
Well, aliens did it. And there's nothing more.
But there is a mistake to not, when you make your pie of choices, to discard it. It's also foolish because
Absolutely.
yeah, that's it.
100%. If I learned something over the years, because I was very absolutist, and it's like, it's this or death.
Yeah.
Especially with music, when you and I were playing together, I was like so much a Metallica fan, and it was Metallica or death.
Yeah.
I mean, and yes, I would listen to other things, but
Magnetic death.
and and then I started opening up and realize now it's Dream Theater of Death. No, I'm joking. So no, I'm a big fan, but no, I do listen to a lot of stuff, including the things that Leo produces, which are amazing. Now, again, it's foolish because there's so many things that we just don't know, and that we cannot. It's like the absence of evidence doesn't mean evidence of absence, and that's one of the most powerful things that I read in this book, The Black Swan, by Nassim Taleb, which I highly recommend to everyone.
I haven't read it yet. I will.
It really kicks your head, and
I want
it's like,
to.
oof, mate, it's the top book.
Do you think? Oh no. I was going to say, if you think that the pandemic is a black swan, but I want to answer the alien question first because I didn't have the chance.
Yeah.
And my thing about that is that I don't know if it's exactly aliens. I thought I was very pro that idea until Do the Stars Academy appeared. When that happened,
It's a shit show.
then the Pentagon started showing all those videos, I switched to the other side. I was like, no, this has to be bullshit. Because Tom DeLonge can't be right. Like,
yeah, exactly.
and,
That's true.
And now, but I think that for the world to work the way I think it works, which is that I think that there's central power. For there to be a central power, there has to be something outside the human being for that to happen. Because if we were just humans, just human nature will make us compete with each other and try to kill Carlitos, right? Like Benny Blanco kills Carlitos and takes over his operation. that would happen like every day if it was just humans. For there to be a central power, there has to be something else.
Yeah.
And if there's nothing else, then there's no central power, and all my thesis is wrong. I don't know what that something else is. It can be aliens. It can be spirits from the other world. It can be for the entities. It can be a lot of different things.
I introduced you to do a very interesting. I introduced you to a very interesting view of what something like God could be. It could be the topography. Si eres a topography, the topography that we're riding. Like, I mean, when you're sitting down on a downhill and you just don't do anything, the downhill pulls you towards it. I mean, you could imagine the universe as riding a topography. That kind of, there are two concepts that are behind what I'm trying to tell you. And here we're talking about God. I mean, I'm trying to tell you a physical interpretation of God. When I say physical, I'm talking about physics, like a physical interpretation of God. An attractor who operates through a topography. Because what I mean about the topography is that the object sits at rest and then it moves through it. So, I mean, it could also be a physical entity that has no will. I'm a believer in God. I mean, I'm a religious person, personally. And I'm talking about an argument which is not the one I believe. But another way I have seen this kind of central power is perhaps as some sort of topography where we sit in, and as we move along space-time, you know, the whole thing. It's an idea from Terence McKenna, actually. It's actually an idea from Terence McKenna. It's like an attractor, you know, something that pulls us towards it, that operates through some sort of like, yeah, when I say topography, I mean, you know, just a space. That when I say topography, it's like movement without will, like water through a mountain, something like that.
Well, I don't. It could be so many things. I always, when I speak to myself about these things, one question that keeps repeating, and I always change it. I don't have a definite answer. Is, if you had a chance to ask God one question, whatever God is to you, imagine that you would get an answer. What that question be?
What's going to be the price of Bitcoin in 10 years? No, I'm joking. That was always. Or were you Satoshi Nakamoto? Have you ever seen this Simpsons episode when Homer Simpson arrives to the wisest person in the world and he gets 3 questions to ask, and he's like, "Are you the wisest person in the world?" "Yes." "Really?" "Yes." "For sure?" "Yes." You cannot. Sorry, bro. Carry on. So
no, it's all right. I mean, it was an open question. Again, I don't know. Probably if I ever got that chance, I shit myself and I lose the opportunity.
I love to talk about this, and I have meditated shitloads about this. And the way I kind of see it is like, I think that the laws of physics combined sparked a divine intelligence. I mean, when you drop them all, it's kind of like chicken or egg situation. It's like when you put all the laws of physics, all the forces of nature together, boom, it sparks intelligence. And actually, the intelligence that we carry inside, it's not like we got it out of nowhere. It's just ever present because it's the result of those forces in combination. And so, but that's obviously my joint, you know, my joint smoking and my stoner theories. I mean, I don't claiming any power behind these ideas. It's just what sits behind my credence, you know. The question that I asked to myself was, is life meaningful? And the answer I gave to myself was yes. And I know as a scientific person that can only be answered with a leap of faith. You cannot give a scientific answer to that question, if life has meaning or not. But I feel inside of me that it has. So what provides this meaning, and what I call meaning, is the force that pulls you towards something, the attractor. What provides meaning, I would think that it's something kind of like the forces of nature combined, you know, pulling us towards somewhere, you know.
The thing is that to get to those points and to get to that thinking, you need to be somewhat detached from the banality of the world that we live in today.
Yes.
And that's a very high quality to have as a human being. And what I'm seeing is that the world is the part of the crisis that we were talking about, the existential crisis, whatever, the paradigm shift. It's a spiritual crisis.
Yes.
There's shitloads of people, like serious amounts of people, that do not have a clue why the sun rises every day and sets in the afternoon.
Man, I heard a great answer to that recently. Not an answer, sorry, a question asked. We are deprived of deprivation. And
Yeah.
this puts us in a position where we don't ask those questions because we are the pride of deprivation.
Oh, because everyone is just, again, focused on the bloody phone and
But it
not doing
precedes
anything
that.
else.
If you read Nietzsche, it precedes that. If you read Nietzsche, if you read Jung, if you read Schopenhauer, like they were saying this, man, 200 years ago. It was like everybody's looking at their piece of paper, And
Probably, and even before, people when they didn't know how to read, but again, they were connected to some other things. Maybe it's a ratio that is constant. I don't know, but are we then the privileged ones?
Excuse me to interrupt you there, but the analysis of Nietzsche is fascinating about that. It's like kind of like Catholicism and Christianity kind of created the tools to destroy itself because it made things so specific that it made people to stop look at the big picture because it provided an answer for everything. And so it just removed people from asking the bigger questions because it was like aliens, God, cars, God, trains, God.
But now it's reverted. Now it's the other way around. It's God, aliens, Bitcoin, aliens, pyramids, aliens. So
aliens,
the truth, yeah, exactly. The truth lies somewhere in the middle. Aliens, man.
Aliens.
Twitter, aliens. No, you know what? Let me tell you something. In my version, to close the aliens question, and I know that this for many listeners can be boring, but in my version of the alien question, man, I'm absolutely not surprised of their lack of interaction with us because it's the same thing we do when we encounter a tribe in the Amazon or something. Like, man, if you think deeply about the topic, you will realize that the solar system is loaded with every single material that you need for anything. The whole question of like some sort of like material race to obtain some resources, it's an absolute bullshit theory because any asteroid in the asteroid belt has more titanium, gold, or whatever you want to extract than the Earth. You can go and get any materials you want there.
Well, that's what Elon Musk wants to do, isn't it?
And it's a point. That will take us to another really beautiful topic. Let's hold it there. But what I want to say is that, man, the only reason why I would conceive that somebody like that, or somebody else coming to this planet, is for one simple dumb reason, man, and it's tourism. There is no other reason, really. Yeah, no, absolutely. There's no other reason. The rest is just bullshit. Like any kind of person who sells you a sci-fi theory that is connected to some sort of resource hunt knows zero about how the solar system is because of what I'm telling you. And which, by the way, leads me to a really interesting kind of like post topic on where we are. We're kind of like looking towards the future. I know some people in the Moscow Advanced Moscow Advanced School of Economics that are kind of like, it's so funny, like they're writing a theory about post-capitalism, and how everything is going to end, and because we're going to run out of opportunities and industries, and I'm like, okay, like. I want to know, like, what trends do you see around the corner, like coming up, decentralization, space mining, big sky thinking. Do you see the game clotting or do you see the game flowing?
So I'll go first, or I don't know, Amilcar, if you want to go first. Don't know.
No, please.
So yeah, for sure, decentralization is one of the big ones, and I'm not gonna say the trivial one, that sustainability, the environmental thing, because I think that's not what's going to change the world. What I think and what worries me is, again, what's happening in the back end with the people who actually own the planet.
Yeah.
With what they're proposing with the great reset.
Oh man, yeah. Good point, bro.
And that scares me, because what I think, again, they're building a narrative for people to look the other way and to say, like, focus on this so that you don't come after me. So I'll give you a problem to focus with a clear enemy to go against.
Do you think that there's like some sort of marketing department of the elites? This is going to trigger Amilcar, I think, a bit. Like, do you think there's some sort of marketing department of the elites that is kind of directing these vectors down, or these narratives are built? You see, like.
Look, I don't think that they're like, it's not like the evil corporation but of course they all speak to each other, and what they're realizing, because they're not dumb, is that that they're saying, like, guy, hello, Prince Charles, we're losing our privileges here. We need you to speak. on behalf of all of us, because you have some sort of credibility, God knows why, to convince some people about this. And we already did it with Greta, we already did it with so on. People are seem to responding to this. Is very clear. And the more they listen to this narrative, they will leave us alone, and we will for sure be easy with these things. But your question on where the world is going in trends, economic trends, and so on, precisely because of that, they are pushing the narrative of you should not strive to own anything.
I wanted to say decentralized are centralized.
So you should not strive to own your flat, your apartment, your car. You don't need that.
Man, I hate this. I hate this idea. I don't want to have a fucking. I hate this idea of the fucking. I mean, I like the. Sorry to interrupt you. I like the concept of shared cars, but I love my car, dude. Like, come on. If the world falls apart, nobody is gonna stop me from opening my goddamn car. I'm gonna take my car and drive it somewhere. God damn it. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah. Simple as. And without anything. So if you think about it, you can break absolutely any sort of private good. And let it be public.
That's very scary.
And that scares me. Now, will it succeed? I think that they're pushing, and the whole narrative goes for it, because there's a clear incentive for the people who actually own stuff to protect it. Because again, different from the previous century and the pre-internet era, now you know stuff. Now it's very easy to know what the truth is.
Well, so the answer for you would be not owning stuff. It's kind of a future trend that to look up to.
Yes. So people, again, the Uberization of the economy.
And how do you see all of this, Amilcar? Where do you stand there?
Have you seen this show Brave New World? It's loosely based on the books, but it's not exactly the same story. It's loosely based, but the thing they have that is interesting to me is that they present the world, the Brave New World, as something that works. Like
Brave New World, like as the Aldous Huxley Brave New World, or
of course. Aldous Huxley Brave New World, they did a show. It's on BBC America and some other.
Yeah.
I think HBO Max is the one carrying it for the United States, but it's a British show. The actors are mostly British, and that world they are presenting has all of these qualities you're talking about. Like, nobody owns anything, everything is communal, and all your problems are supposedly already worked out by the system. Like, you just have to go to work, party, and that's it. Like, it's a very sex-free world when everybody belongs to everybody. That's the most like, that's the tagline of the show. Like, everybody belongs to everybody, or something like that. That's the thing they are using to promote it. And I think there's a trend going through that. I don't know if that will happen. The Uberization of the world will happen. The trend I see that I think it's the future of the world is that comment you were talking about. I think the comment is coming, man.
The comment is coming. Yeah.
I see, like, this is a failed, like this is like that theory comes with a cycle.
Yes.
Like according to that theory, there was a civilization before us, and that civilization was failing, and then the comet came, and then it all started again. I think this is a failed civilization, just
Yeah.
like that one. So I don't know if I'm being uh, like too much of a writer, but I see like the story. Like this is where the story should
It's
go.
like if that's why I
Uh,
started saying this episode, saying that this feels like a Mr. Robot episode all over the way. I mean, it's like we even had the Capitol storming, man. Like,
yeah, yeah, yeah. And that, well, I don't know. Mr. Rowland, I have my
yeah, I
reservations
haven't seen
about.
the third season, by the way. I haven't seen the final. I don't know how it resolved. So
I'm not going to tell you,
yeah, I know, I know, I
but
know, I know.
uh, also, of course, Black Mirror, like the things they were saying like 3 years ago, and they seemed outlandish. They seemed like this is never, no, or maybe this could happen, but in 10 years, and they are already here.
Or even
Uh,
The Simpsons.
yeah, well, no, The Simpsons is another story altogether. Like they really predicted everything. I know it's not an original idea, but uh, that's I
Yeah,
don't know.
yeah.
That's my prediction.
You
That's
know,
that's the trend I see. A
I wanna
comet.
throw, no, and I mean, what you mean by that, I guess, I mean, if I may kind of add some sort of like articulation to the idea, is that like to a further articulation to the idea, it's like, well, obviously, this may go to a collapse point, whatever, if it's external or internal, but it doesn't feel stable, right?
Yeah, it doesn't. And another thing I wanted to say is that remember when you said Peter Thiel
Yeah.
uh, at the middle of this
Yes.
broadcast?
Yes.
Well, that guy thinks that there are no more original ideas, and
You mean
it's
Peter Thiel or Peter Schiff in this case? Are we talking
no,
about
no, no.
Peter Thiel?
We're
About the
talking
mistake I made.
about
Uh-huh.
Peter
Yeah,
Thiel.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Uh, and his theory is that we are developing and leashing off and living off ideas that were created in the 1940s, 50s, and even maybe like Bitcoin, that is like the big idea of this century, at least for me, or so yes, if this century, it comes from the last century, that the idea, like they were working things out in the last in the 90s, even in the 80s, I think, and they couldn't get it to work until Bitcoin, but the idea
Sure.
is from the last century, and that the humanity is suffering for a lack of ideas. I'm not exactly. Uh, I I don't know if I agree or not,
Yeah.
but I wanted to say that that idea that the world is running out of ideas is not. It's not. It's not. It's going. It's a fairly.
I, I
I
give
don't
you.
want to say popular because
Yeah.
nobody's thinking about it, but this guy is a genius,
I,
like Peter Thiel.
yeah.
He's really smart. You hear him talking, and he really knows what he's saying.
But you see, well, I give you, by the way, I give you a quote that can help you in this sense. It's like, I don't know the answer, but I do admire the problem. I love that quote, by the way. Use it a lot.
Oof,
Yeah.
love it. Who said that? I
My
want to use
brother.
it.
My brother.
You, what?
No, but to be fair with you, it was a quote that he used to sign his email for, and I think it comes from somebody else. If we Google it, we will get there, like where it comes from.
Okay.
By the way, before I carry on, I want to make one little super like boring. I have a joke in Russia where I said Babushka Leo commentary. Like it's like Grandma Leo. Grandma Leo
Okay.
commentary. It's like, I know, Eduardo, that you have like some sort of financial credibility to defend, and because I know that your opinion, it's important. I mean, when you're a financial analyst, your opinion, it's like a doctor, your opinion is. So I'm really thankful that you're joining two sort of artists here in this conversation, and this is obviously like, yeah, and I want to make this disclaimer clearly for the sake of your, I mean, of your financial reputation. It's really important, and I really like that you give us like some sort of like anchor, you know, to this like big sky thinking, because artists and people who work with technical details are just different beasts, right? And it's really great when they interact.
I'm an artist. I'm a frustrated artist at heart.
We are frustrated financiers at art. Now I want to say my trend, like the trend that I believe. It's really boring. Again, like it's really boring the what I'm gonna bring. But I'm gonna tell this trend to you with a story, and I'm gonna start by telling you what I think the trend is gonna be, and then I tell you the story of why I believe this. The trend is that the hedonistic, modern view, it's going to be proven to be algorithmically wrong. Like across the upcoming, like all this sex freedom, freedom of everything, open-mindedness and stuff is going to be proven algorithmically wrong. And I'm going to tell you a personal story on how I reached that conclusion. I mean, so I appointed as the godfather of my son my best friend. His name is Dexter. Like, my story with religion is very interesting because I kind of like became a religious person by accident in a certain way, and that's a long story. But it kind of started like I was a hardcore atheist all my life until I got married with my Russian wife. And by the way, today is the 2-year anniversary of the death of our beloved babushka Alla. It's a very beautiful coincidence that this is happening on her anniversary. And
you said anyway, I was very good, and then sorry.
Yeah, like a death bursary. I don't know how to call of our beloved babushka Alla, and this is the grandmother of my wife. And I was a person who, when I was 27 years old, I got baptized into the Orthodox faith. So it literally happened that in a church back door here in Domediedo, in the middle of nowhere, I was naked, because when you do a baptism, I was never baptized. When you do a baptism into Orthodox religion, you have to get sunk into water. So I was 27 years old, naked in some place with a Russian guy throwing me water on top. And this is not where I'm going with why I think that this algorithm of hedonism is going to be one of the trends that it's going to come ahead. You know, it's the collapse of that algorithm of hedonism and freedom, and absolute freedom and relativity and all of that. And I think that names like Jordan Peterson are really symptomatic names that come across when you see like why this guy has 3 million followers on YouTube. It's connected to what I'm saying, but anyways, I'm gonna carry on with my story. So okay, I'm a person who have this. I was a hardcore atheist who, when I was 27 years old, got converted into Orthodox Christianity to please babushka. That was the point. I was like, okay, listen, like for her is important, you know, I don't care, let's do it, you know, because who cares? I mean, if I really don't care, I should do it, you know, if she cares, like if I genuinely don't care. So I entered into that story, and there is a gap that I don't have time to tell you, because in between that situation of me getting a baptism when I was 27 years old and now when I'm 35, 8 years passed, and those 8 years passed is what led me to kind of become officially an Orthodox Christian, not because I was baptized, but because I thought it was important. And what I'm not going to talk about now is what happened in those 8 years, because it's a too long story, and it's a beautiful story, and I hope to tell it, and it's amazing. But now I'm going to tell you the concrete case of why I think that the trend towards the future is the collapse of that algorithm. And because it's just the algorithms that come out from something like an organized religion are not arbitrary. They're really not arbitrary. And they come from a Darwinian process of evolution. They were crafted across hundreds of thousands of years, not only thousands of years. Why am I saying that? That's the story that I'm not telling right now. The story that I'm telling right now is a proof of the application of the algorithm when you work outside of something like an institutionalized church and you just see it as a part of your life. I appointed as the God's father of my son my best friend, his name is Daniel Dexter. He's a Hungarian, and him and I are brothers in arms in the punk world. We met each other playing punk music. He has a tattoo here in his mouth that says "No God."
Wow.
Yes, like down inside of his mouth, like here. However, I appointed him as the godfather of my son, even though he's not a believer, because I thought that my sister, who is the godmother, she represents the city. My sister is like this mainstream, doctor person, and Dexter represents the going to camping and teaching my son, how to live in nature. And if I die, either Dexter or my sister will take my son. So I took this decision very seriously. And I'm sorry, this is going to be a bit of a long story, but the result is shocking. So what happened? We appointed Dexter as the godfather of our son. He came to Moscow 1 year ago to the baptism of Sirius, of our son. He became the godfather, and as soon as he came back to Budapest, he disappeared from our lives. 100%. Stopped answering my phone, never replied my emails. I mean, I wrote him like 40, 50, 60 emails. Like, where are you, man? What's up? Like, you're the godfather of my son. What the hell? Like, this is not a joke. What's happening? Dude, I'm really getting angry. Like, you're broken this friendship. This is a friendship that is kind of like 12, 15 years old or something. It's like very deep friendship. And it was a switch, man. It was like he just simply stopped talking to us. 100%. And I started getting so pissed off and so angry. And so like 2 weeks ago, I Googled how to change the godfather of my son. And I got this answer. I landed in this Orthodox Christianity websites, which were like, no, man, you cannot change the godfather of your son. If the godfather of your son is broken, you have to fix him. Whoa. And I called him 40 times until he answered the phone. I was like, until he answered the phone. And I said, man, I was Googling how to replace you, but I realized that I can't. And I'm going to fix you. And so the reason why I was late for this broadcast is because Dexter and I were on the phone sharing a normal conversation as if nothing had happened. Because what I did healed the situation. Now, is this like that because God came from the heavens and spoke to the people? That's not how I see it. I see it because that algorithm was crafted across hundreds of thousands of human experience. The algorithm is Godfather, you don't replace, you fix. Why? Because if you replace Godfather and you repeat this over time forever, there is no society in the future. Because the point is, when you ask a question, can you repeat that forever? And that's the point of it's a complicated issue, but that's a point of some of the religious algorithms. They're kind of aiming towards what action can you repeat forever without damage to society. So fuck your girlfriend's wife, your friend's wife. Okay, great. You can maybe get away with that once. You can maybe get away with that twice. But repeat it over time and you have no society eventually. And the whole question is, are we better off with a world with society or without society? Man, I put my short bets or whatever financial thing into the fact that we're better with society, because here we are having a conversation from Buenos Aires to Moscow to London, and we are united by this technology, and all of that happened because we organized ourselves into some sort of tribe. So it's very funny that my prediction is kind of actually the reversal of the hedonistic / party / sex, drugs, and rock and roll narrative. And as a person from the 90s who went into punk music and who entered into all this narrative, and I abandoned all my career right now and did everything I'm doing, and now I'm like a musician who is doing all of this, I all of a sudden wake up myself and said, man, I was fed up a lie. I was fed up a lie that, or I don't know if a lie, but better said, a weak truth. That's a better way to put it. A weak truth that I was going to obtain some sort of meaning by doing all this kind of like liberation, by living through all of this liberation. And as you don't have to give more than 5-6 steps to realize that that's bullshit. And that's why I think figures like Jordan Peterson became so famous out of nowhere, because they are resonating with this idea. It's like the morality that has been sold to us in the 90s, and I think there is a drift between us and our next generation that comes after. I don't know how is it. It's just that Russian world is so different, and we don't have a quarantine. We are going back towards Orthodox religion, and some of the people in the West may see this as an alarming thing, but for us here, it feels rock solid. That's kind of like a rant, an end of the show rant.
It's to me it's way too powerful to just throw like a 3-minute response or whatnot.
Look,
what I would say, Leo, is that if you ever want to do an episode speaking about religion, I'm all for it.
Yes.
And about faith, because you would not believe how many coincidences of your story we were like, wow, that sort of thing happened to me too, in not the Godfather story, but the whole previous. I was like, no, that cannot be. It's like, we share a lot of commonalities there, but it, my 2 cents to that is that living systems, and ourselves as human beings included, tend to kind of revert to the mean. Like we exaggerate one thing, hedonism or purity or whatever you want to call it, and then it tends to revert to the mean, because ultimately we want to exist. We don't want to end. So we are coded either divinely or simply biologically to exist, until, of course, the Earth no longer exists, because the growth of the sun and the solar system makes the planet inhabitable, and then we're going to have to conquer Mars or whatnot. That's something completely different. But I agree. I mean, the human beings, ultimately, we're going to find a way.
You know what made me change my mind about all of this? It's like the time spans that I'm talking about when I think about humanity are on the 300,000 years. They're not on the 10,000 years. They're on the 300,000 years. So here's the thing. Imagine that 300,000 years ago, there was a tribe somewhere in Latin America, in Africa, whatever, and a snake comes and bites the child tragically of one of the people in the tribe, and the child dies. And so the person goes out from the tribe to find the snakes that killed his son, and he found the nests of snakes and killed them all, and came back to the tribe 300,000 years ago with the dead snakes. And what happened? He got the girl. I mean, because the girls were like, oh my God, like, you're a hero. Great. So what story came out of that? Unknown came to our lives. The snake did something terrible, killed our son. We went out and killed the unknown and came back and obtained a reward. That story, it's the myth of Saint George. Like, it's just like it's like retold and retold and retold until it becomes a hard truth. It's like it's so many times was analyzed and retold and repeated. So now here's a funny question. What is the difference between the word of God and that? No difference. It's just a fact. It becomes a fact through Darwinism, through Darwinian repetition, better said. You see? So that's why I was like, this is like this book of the Bible is like Harry Potter, but 100,000 years old. When I read Harry Potter...
Sorry, it's just that the danger is, and look, I agree with you, but the danger is how people interpret it and use it to their will. Of course. Because then we know the bad side of those stories.
But I'm super skeptical towards. I mean, what I'm trying to say is like danger exists, and you can die driving the car when you go to work. That's a fact. So yes, there is a danger to it, but that doesn't reduce the fact that it seems like this text, when you face something like what I'm trying to tell you, or whatever, or like being infidel to your wife or something like that, man, it always ends bad. So if you stop seeing it like God came from the heavens and said something, and you start seeing it like, hey, we repeated the pattern for 100,000 years, and then we came out with the juice of the event. The juice of the event is you face what you're afraid of, and you're gonna get a reward. And that algorithm, you can flip it, I think, in any ways, and you will always reach the same conclusion. Every time you face something you're afraid of and are successful, right? Because obviously, if the snake kills you, you're not successful. So, but if you're successful at facing something that is fearful to you, you will get a reward. So whatever. I mean, we got ourselves very far away from the topic, but that's my prediction. I think that we're gonna go. I mean, and you know what? You know who called it? Terence McKenna called it again. Terence McKenna called it in his book, The Archaic Revival. That book is like from the 90s, man. The book is like, what a coincidence. And by the way, I have to say, this tattoo, that's a tribute to Terence McKenna. This is all a tribute to Terence McKenna. Like, Terence McKenna was calling it, man. Like the archaic revival means, I was telling, I was giving a lecture yesterday to my students because since the last time we saw each other, I became like I'm mostly a lecturer now, and I'm tripping it a lot. And so when you talk about polyrhythms in music, you're talking about two shapes of music that are like of the different shape, that eventually after a certain amount of repetitions come together, so they form a new larger structure. I think that culture is going through this polyrhythmic loop that came to a reset. And it came to a reset recently, and that's why we're kind of like going back to some sort of archaic traditions. And so that's kind of and then I would stop calling this prediction mine, and I would give it to Terence McKenna, which is a more powerful brain than I am. My prediction is some sort of continuation of this archaic revival, something like that. Because, we had enough of technology, maybe. Sorry. Yeah.
I think that the Godfather story was beautiful, man. That was amazing, and that should have been the end of the broadcast.
I agree.
Because it was too powerful to even keep talking. Like that was
it's
amazing.
True. It wouldn't make
and it happened today. Like that's great.
Yeah.
I love it.
And it happened on the anniversary of Allah's death, which it's like these triangles. I really didn't fabricate this, I promise you. It's not like I was waiting, like, Allah's death was like Allah, the grandmother of Anya. It was, Anya told me yesterday, Allah's death was like 2 days, 2 years. I was like, okay, cool. So that seems like a good way to call for the logo type of the show and say goodbye. It's been 2 hours and 20 minutes.
Very enjoyable. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys.
We can do this again. Hopefully not in the middle of a major crisis, but I'm all for it.
You know what is really amazing? I mean, what is a good indicator that something big happened this week? That we said the word COVID like once.
Yeah, and we didn't talk about it. That's great.
That's good. Yeah, that's great. That's gonna call for another one, because I have to talk to you about the perspective of the Russian experience on the COVID. I mean, I'm telling you, there is a disconnect between what we're living here and what you guys are living there. There is no lockdown here since September. No, man, sorry, since May. I'm not joking.
Wow.
And we are absolutely not seeing people dying like flies in front of us. And maybe this is going to get the whole video banned because of some WTO contradiction, but whatever.
Big Brother is watching, so cool.
Awesome. So that goes for another episode. I mean, of course, I'm not a COVIDiot. I mean, I respect the whole thing, but I have some stories to tell you from here. And it's really fascinating. I mean, isolate the weak, man. That's the best thing you can do. Yeah, we learned that in Russia. Yeah. All right, I'm going to stop the stream. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining. Whoever joined us till this late. It's been a joy to hang out with you guys, and it's been a joy to piece off the world together. Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Yes.